It is one of the most significant climate summits in history. You could argue it's one of the most significant diplomatic summits in history, going back to the Congress of Vienna. That I'm talking, of course, about COP26, the conference which runs until the 12th of November. Opened yesterday in Glasgow, but really getting down to business today. We're joined by the Minister for the Environment, Eamon Ryan. Minister, what do you hope to see coming out of Glasgow?
I hope the critical thing is that we deepen and strengthen the Paris Climate Agreement and start delivering on it. And that there have been 26 meetings of the Conference of the Parties on how we address climate change. 200 countries come together. At various stages, there's been a real sense of hope, and then other kind of senses hope dash. Even back to second, I think it was, meeting, we signed the Kyoto Protocol, where world came together and said, OK, we're going to start addressing it. But that didn't work, in fact. It didn't deliver the change we need. I think it's the 21st meeting then of the parties was in Paris. And that was the first time, I think, that there was a really proper legal international agreement. But it only set out, the key aspiration in it was that we would try and keep the global temperatures below, the average increase below 1.5 degrees. And it's on a probability basis, it's not even certain. And the reason that target was picked, and it was subsequently, the science really shows that it was the appropriate target, is that when you go over that sort of global average increase, what you risk is certain tipping points being crossed where you would have irreversible climate change. And then we would be in real trouble as the natural systems that we depend on collapse. So that Paris Agreement was critical. It said that after 5 years, there would be a key another next meeting where we would ratchet up, where we would increase the ambition, because the initial ambition wasn't strong enough. So that's what's happening in Glasgow. It's a year later because of COVID. It's a critical moment in time for the parties to ratchet up their ambition to show that we're real and serious about the scale of changes we need to make.
You don't like the whole last chance saloon, minute to midnight kind of
I
talk?
don't, because I've been there before, and I think Dermot Torney was writing about this in the Irish Times last week, and I think correctly, to be slightly careful if you put it all down to, oh, there's this one decision point, and if we don't do this, or the risk with that is what happened in Copenhagen, that sense of real failure and the sense of real loss of momentum. We need to come out of Glasgow with an accelerated increase in momentum, and momentum here at home. It's not like Paris or some other moments like Kyoto where you were looking for a specific new treaty. We're into the real details here now of what countries are actually doing.
This is the trickier bit, arguably.
It is. It's much more difficult. It's much easier in Paris to put down an aspiration on paper. We're going to do something ambitious. This is showing here's where the money is. Here's where the climate justice element of this, which is critical, and here's the transparency around the rules as to implement it, so that countries can't fake it or fade it. And I suppose they're the three things that, in my mind, what we're looking out of Glasgow. Well, firstly, it is climate justice. It is a time, because again, back in Copenhagen, the rich world committed 100 billion to support the poorer countries being able to do their bit. We reconfirmed that in Paris, but we haven't delivered it yet. So that's the first thing. You do need to deliver the funding that will help the developing world cope, and particularly cope with adapting to climate change that's already happening as well as stopping it. Secondly, then, we need transparency, and the transparency around the rules, so that countries, when they declare what they're doing, everyone knows it's true, and that the rules are really simple. And then thirdly is ambition. Every country now needs to do what Ireland is committed to do, which is to halve our emissions in a decade. And that's beyond compare challenging. And that's the real, if there's a make or break in terms of, Shane, if we're saying this is the key moment in our time, well, the next few years, this decade, is the critical, most historic. Go back to what you said at the very start, the Versailles Treaty, or the kind of, thinking
Congress of Vienna and all these things.
This is, but it's over the next number of years. And it's how we deliver change here at home.
Well, let's talk about how you will deliver change here at home, because when is your climate action plan actually due?
Well, we're expecting to hopefully agree it at Cabinet this week, and then we will go to the Oireachtas. Firstly is the opposition and the public, with both the carbon budgets, which the Climate Advisory Council recommended, and the plan which responds to those.
Are you hoping for support for the opposition? You haven't it yet. There's not a remotest chance of this, is there?
I think the Taoiseach will be speaking tomorrow at the conference, and I'll be going next week. And I think we can, in international arena now, start to stand up and say, do you know, Ireland isn't a bad example here. We have some things happening here that give good news story and give people hope.
In theory, but in practice, like there's no way Sinn Féin and the rest of the opposition are going to say, cut agricultural emissions by up to 30%.
Well, just in fact, the climate plan that we'll write on, hopefully we'll agree on Thursday, it builds on the one that Richard Bruton introduced in 2019. And that in turn built on the work that the Joint Oireachtas Committee did across all parties, all agreeing on some of the big targets around developing renewable power, improving or retrofitting our homes and so on.
Yeah, that's the stuff. That's the fuzzy stuff everybody loves.
No, it's not, because that was also built just to background where this is coming from on the back of the Citizens' Assembly we did. So our process has been good, and it's one that it has been inclusive politically. The benefit of that is we were able to get all-party agreement to stop fracking of gas in Ireland. We were able to get all-party agreement to divest the State's Investment Fund from fossil fuel investment.
Yeah.
We were able to get political agreement to say, no, we won't do any more oil and gas exploration. We won't issue new licenses.
With respect, though, that's all the low-lying fruit. The much more tricky stuff is emissions from agriculture. Like 30% reports over the weekend said the climate action plan is going to say is required. Tim Cullinan, the IFA president, says that will have profound implications for the rural economy. Sinn Féin won't wear that. I'm not even sure Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael TDs will wear that.
One of the changes we need to do is beyond compare challenging and brings system change and needs system change. We have to make sure, so it's going to be changing the energy system, the transport system, the industrial system, the agricultural land use system. If we're going to change that system, we will not do it just by pointing the finger at people, blaming people, making people feel bad about it. We will actually we need to create a better system.
Sure, and but the G20 yesterday were quite categorical, and so was Ursula von der Leyen, saying we urgently need to reduce methane emissions.
Oh, we do. We need to. Oh, absolutely. And Ireland, we will be joining other leaders at that methane pledge.
That's cows, though. That's our herd. That's our national herd.
First and foremost, if you look at what behind that international policy is a recognition that fossil methane, go back to that fracking I was talking earlier on, and the release of methane from all the gas pipelines, often waste, that can be stopped relatively quickly and relatively cheaply, and there's huge consequence. Agriculture will take longer, but we can and will deliver a better agricultural system as we change it. The current agricultural system
Can you do that, though, and leave the national herd the same size it is at the moment?
The national herd will be smaller, but what the key issue is, what's the income to the Irish farmer? And the key metric is, can we protect the Irish family farm model? Because in the alternative way it's going at the moment, towards ever more intensification, ever more spending and borrowing and more fertilisers and pollution and destroying of the environment, that's not serving Irish farmers, and certainly not the Irish family farm. We could end up with a country where you've got a small number of very large industrial type farms, and rural Ireland doesn't benefit, the environment doesn't benefit, and we've lost the social gain that the Irish agricultural system brings to our country.
Okay.
So that system needs to change towards one where we protect nature, where we pay farmers properly for nature-based services, and also reduce the emissions. And reducing the emissions is the one that cannot be ignored, cannot be avoided.